What's going on, everyone? How you doing? So in today's video, I want to talk about food and basically how we understand food, how do we track food, where do we start? If we want to lose weight, if we want to put on muscle, where do we start? It's a common question that we get, and it's something that people still really misunderstand when it comes to food. Like, how do you track it? How do you understand what's important, what's not? So that's what we're going to do in today's video. I'm going to teach you guys the pyramid of nutrition. So, right, doesn't matter whether you want to lose fat or gain muscle, it all comes down to calories. Calories is the most important thing before you figure anything else out, before any of this, which we're going to go into. So if you want to lose body fat, you need to be on a deficit. I'm sure you can see that. If you want to gain muscle, so you start putting on weight, you need to be on a surplus, right? So it doesn't matter what you do. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're following a keto diet, intermittent fasting, if you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, whatever, it doesn't matter what. If you're not on a deficit and your goal is to lose body fat, it's not going to happen. If you're not on a deficit, you need to be on a deficit. It doesn't matter what you are doing, okay? Even when you say, oh, but keto diet works. Well, most of the times, the reason why ketogenic diet might have worked for you is probably because you've restricted your foods, which you used to overconsume. And it's not the carbs that are going to make you fat. It's probably because you overconsumed in foods that contain carbs. So if you're overconsuming in something, it's going to put you in a surplus, right? So it's not carbohydrates, it's none of that. So when you go on a ketogenic diet, or when you go into intermittent fasting, another prime example, when you're in intermittent fasting, you know, you're reducing that time in which you can eat. So again, you're restricting yourself, and the likelihood when you're in an intermittent fasting stage is probably because you are in a deficit. So what happens when you're in deficit? Your body fat goes down. It's supposed to be an errand going down. So the same applies when you're trying to put on lean tissue, muscle. You need to be on a surplus, right? Now, if you're very, very new to the gym, never trained before, and you start training, it's a brand new stimulus to the body, there is a chance that when you're in the beginner, this depends to various things, that you may still put on some lean tissue if you're on a deficit. It won't last for very long. I'm not going to say a time phrase, but it can be anything from 3 to 6 months, even potentially within your first year of training. If you're on a deficit, it's potential that you can still put on some lean tissue if you are new. If you're a more advanced person, you've been training for quite a while, and if you're on a deficit, the likelihood of you putting on lean tissue while in a deficit or even in a maintenance, it's pretty low. So if you want to try to put lean tissue, you need to be on a surplus. Now, if you're one of those people that say, I eat everything, you know, we need to take things into consideration, like, what does your life consist of? I.e., are you sat in an office all day, or are you a builder that's constantly moving around? If you're someone that moves around a lot and you say, oh, I eat everything, chances are, if your weight is staying the same, you're probably in a maintenance. So you're neither on a surplus or on a deficit. You're in a maintenance, right? And so this is the things we need to take into consideration. People that tend to move around more will probably need a higher surplus, where people that don't move so much won't need such a high surplus. The same applies when in a deficit. Don't want to confuse you guys too much. But if you move around a lot, if your lifestyle consists of you being quite active throughout the day, you may not necessarily need such a big deficit in comparison to someone else. So this is when you say, you know, when you're in that stage of, oh, my friend can eat anything and they can get away with still losing weight, chances are is that they have a more active lifestyle than you. So when they have a more active lifestyle, they may not necessarily need such a big deficit like you do because you have an office job. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So calories is key. If you're not aware of calorie consumption and you're trying to lose body fat, if you're not in a deficit, it's not going to happen. If you're not in a surplus, when your goal is to try put on muscle, put on weight, if you're not in a surplus, it's not going to happen. So understand how to track your calories. It's really simple. Now, once you understand calories, okay, you're comfortable with tracking your calories, you know what your maintenance is, you know what you need to do to be on a deficit, you know what you need to do to be on a surplus. Macronutrients. What are macronutrients? Macronutrients is basically your carbs, your fats, your proteins. Macronutrients is what your body utilizes for energy, okay? Your body's preferred source of energy, I'm sure you can all guess, carbs. They are good, they're tasty. I like carbs, I'm sure you watching this like carbs too. Your body's then second preferred, obviously, is fats. And protein can be used as energy as well, but you don't really want to be utilizing protein as an energy source. You want to be using protein to help you with recovery and whatnot. So ideally, carbs is your favorite source. If you're in a ketogenic diet, obviously fats are going to be your main source of energy. So that's what macronutrients are, okay? And once you understand calories, then you can start tracking your macros. Now, Obviously, key nutrient to start tracking first of all, right over here, is your protein, okay, because that's going to help you with recovery, it's going to help you build muscle, it's going to help you maintain muscle if you're in a deficit. So we understand protein. So typically, most people need 1 gram per pound, okay? If you can't read that, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. So 1 gram per pound of body weight is what most people will need. Okay, you can go as low as 0.8, but if your goal is to try and maintain as much lean tissue as you want or put on muscle, I'd say stick to 1 gram. For the everyday person, you know, if you just want to keep a nice, healthy, active lifestyle, be relatively fit, you don't have much interest in being huge or whatever, you can stick to the 0.8. That's the bare minimum I'd say you can go. Once you understand your protein, then you can start tracking your carbs and fats, okay? So first of all, you must understand calories. I can't stress this enough. If you don't understand calories, what your calorie intake should be, there is no point you guys tracking your macronutrients, because you can be having enough protein, right? But if you're still over consuming on everything else and your goal is to lose fat and you're like, oh, I'm eating enough protein, I'm getting strong in the gym, I'm not losing weight, probably not in a deficit, okay? And same goes for the surplus. You know, even if you're having enough protein but not having sufficient total calories, you're not gonna gain that tissue. So once you understand macronutrients, we know what they are, okay? Body source of energy, essentially. I said you don't want to utilize protein as an energy. You want to use carbs and fats, use protein to help you with recovery. Once you understand this, then this is your micronutrients, okay? Micronutrients is things like your vitamins and your minerals. So they help the body stay healthy, okay? It's what your body needs to maintain good operating system. Okay, so there, your vitamins, awful handwriting here, and minerals. Okay, lots of your fruities and veggies, boom, micronutrients. Okay, you should be having plenty of those in your diet as it is anyway. So even when you are just focusing on learning how to track your calories, you should still incorporate a lot of vegetables and fruits into your diet. Now understand one thing, fruits and veggies are still calories, okay? So although it is very hard to go into a caloric surplus on fruit and veggies, it is possible, okay? So, you know, there are still calories, just so you know. When you say, I eat a lot of fruit, you know, if that's what's putting you in a surplus and you're trying to lose weight, maybe find a way to reduce your calories, okay? So they are still calories, but fruities and veggies contain a lot of micronutrients, which is good for your general well-being. And then from there, once you figure this out, so you've understand calories, now you understand your macronutrients, you understand what amount of protein you need per day, you understand your carbs and fats. Okay, then we go into meal timing. Now, meal timing for most people is absolutely not important. Okay, it's as simple as that. As I said, trying to lose weight, deficit. I'm going to keep repeating this because people still get it so confused. If you want to try to gain weight, you're on a surplus. Okay, the border's getting messy, but I'm sure you guys get it. Meal timing is more important for people that are extremely serious about their training. Like if you're an athlete competing for, I don't know, a bodybuilding show, a marathon, I don't know, the cross games or CrossFit games, whatever, you know. That's where meal timing comes in handy. And that's pretty much it. It's meal timing, okay? You don't really need to worry about that too much unless, as I said, your goal is to be like Mr. Olympia or just a really, really good athlete, okay? Or you're just interested in understanding more about it. Well, now you know meal timing comes above micronutrients. So this basically means when should you eat? When should you place your carbs? Where should you place your protein? Where should you place your fats? You know, should you have protein before or after training? Should you have carbs before or after training? Should you have carbs in the morning, at night, yada, yada. Don't want to bore you guys too much with that because it is at the top of the pyramid. So it's not necessarily the most important thing. But as I said, once you figure these things out, you feel absolutely comfortable. You know how to manipulate your calories and play around with them for what you need. You know how to change your macronutrients to suit your goals. And then you start to understand your micronutrients. The meal timing comes in after that, okay, second to last. I'm sure you start to get the point. And last but not least, supplements. So this is the one where most of you start. Most of you place supplements all the way down here. And then you go, oh, I'm taking this herbal tea and herbal that, and then I'm taking this protein powder, and I've got whatever. I'm not going to bore you guys with it. And you have some fancy pre-workout and creatine and all that shit. This should be last of your priority, okay? If you don't understand calories, if you don't understand macronutrients, if you don't understand micronutrients, if you don't understand meal timing, supplements are irrelevant, okay? I'm a huge fan of taking supplements in my diet. I'm a huge fan. I believe that they have a purpose. I believe that they do work, okay? I do find it beneficial to have certain supplements in one's diet, but as they say, they are there to supplement a diet. You shouldn't rely on them as your main source of calories. You shouldn't rely on them as your main source of micronutrients. You shouldn't rely on them as the main source of anything. They're there to supplement, to help you, okay? So I find, for example, things like a protein powder, you know, although most of us have one, you know, I find them a great way to increase your protein intake, okay? Sometimes it's hard if you're consuming 200 grams of protein a day, okay? If you're consuming 200 grams of protein, you know, protein, when being consumed from solid foods, can be quite satiating food. It can make you feel quite full. Therefore, sometimes it can be quite hard to consume a high amounts of it. Everyone differs. Some people can have lots, some people not so much. So this is where supplements come in handy. Things like a protein powder, okay, it's not so harsh on the stomach at times, so they come in handy. And then you have your multivitamins and your creatines and your pre-workouts. And once you start to understand these things, then this starts to make more sense, and how this benefits this and this, and how it starts to make such a huge difference within one's diet. But the most important thing I want to stress to you guys is, you know, don't be reliant on just this one. 9 times out of 10, most of you will go, well, okay, well, I've cut all my carbs, problem solved, I've got all the supplements I need, and then you forget about everything else that's extremely important, okay? So it doesn't matter what anyone says to you, whether you're trying to follow a keto diet, a carb-free diet, a high-carb diet, intermittent fasting diet, whatever diet there is out there, which I'm not going to name all of them, understand calories. And last but not least, okay, I ran this through our dietitian, Team JD Fitness dietitian Cassandra, and one thing she mentioned, which I should mention at the bottom here, is adherence. And that is, I can't believe I forgot that, because I always talk about adherence. Adherence is so important. So when you calculate your calories, you need to have a diet which you can adhere to. So if your friend Barry is doing a ketogenic diet and they've lost loads of weight, and you're like, Barry's doing a ketogenic diet, fuck it, I'm gonna do a ketogenic diet. If you can't adhere to it, ain't gonna work shit. So many times I see people fail on this lack of adherence, because you're doing a diet that you can't adhere to. If you can't stick to a deficit because you're following some fancy fad diet, don't do it. Because the chances are you're gonna go super extreme and you'd be like, oh my God, I lost so much weight, you know? And then all of a sudden you stop, you're like, no, can't do it. Eat all the carbs in the world, and then you're going to go feel like absolute shit. You're going to look at the scales the next day, scales are going to be up, you're going to feel bloated, and you're going to go, oh my God, carbs are to blame. You know, not true. Because the reason why you're feeling like shit and why you all of a sudden feel bloated is because you followed some fatty diet where your calories are like 800 calories a day, which is not even great for you. And you know, and your calories are super, super low, and then out of nowhere, you've done this for say like 3 weeks, right? And then out of 3 weeks, you go and consume all the carbohydrates in the world and all the fatty foods in the world, and then you feel like crap and you go, the carbs made me feel like shit. It's not the carbs that are making you feel like shit. It's the overconsumption of food. Your body's not ready for that. Your body's not meant to deal with so much of that, okay? So without confusing you guys too much, so at the bottom here, we're going to add adherence. There's no space, you get it. Adherence is key. If you can't adhere to it, don't do it, okay? Then, important, calories. Understand your calories. If you're trying to lose, deficit. If you're trying to gain, surplus, okay? Carbs don't make you fat. Fats don't make you fat. Have too much of anything when you're trying to lose, not going to happen, okay? And the same goes for surplus. If your surplus is too high, no, not going to confuse you guys. Once you understand this, understand macronutrients, okay? Your protein, carbs, fats. First, start by learning how to track your protein, which, as I said, is 1 gram per pound of body weight for the majority of people. If you're the average Joe, and by that I mean someone that works in an office, just likes to keep fit, you can go as low as 0.8, okay? For everyone else, trying to put on some tissue, some muscle, or, you know, you've built the muscle and you're trying to lose the fat, get ready for your holiday, say stick to a gram per pound, okay? Most people should stick to a gram per pound as it is anyway. So that's that. Then once you understand this, your micronutrients, okay? You can get them from fruities, from veggies, and then eventually from supplements, but we'll get there. Once you understand your micronutrients, obviously you have your meal timing, where to place your meals, where do you put your carbs, where do you put your protein, your fats, and etc. And then last but not least, you have your supplements. Okay, guys, so hope that makes sense. Hope I didn't confuse you guys too much. Trying to keep it simple, you know me, like to chitter chat. So I hope that's of help. Share it, like it, comment, ask me some questions. You have myself and we have a registered dietitian within the team. I know you don't see much of her, but she is within the team. So any questions that I can't answer, by all means, I'll make sure she gets them to you and answered. So guys, that's that. That's the pyramid of nutrition. I hope this is of help. If you're stuck within your diet, I hope this helps. On that note, peace.